Most people will spend their entire lives misjudging one number. Not their weight, not their age, not their salary, their position. Where they actually fall on the wealth ladder. How they compare to the people they pass on the street, sit next to at work, scroll past on a screen. And the gap between what they think and what's true is wider than almost anyone expects. Today we're running the numbers, the real ones, from the Federal Reserve. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand. And more importantly, you'll know why your guess was probably wrong. Every 3 years, the Federal Reserve runs the Survey of Consumer Finances, the most detailed snapshot of American household wealth that exists. The most recent data is from 2022, released in October 2023. And the gap between what Americans believe about wealth and what the data shows is one of the most consistently documented patterns in behavioral research. Most people have a rough sense of their income. Far fewer have ever looked up their actual percentile or their net worth percentile, and almost no one checks both. The two numbers are rarely the same. 3 reasons why your guess is wrong. Stay with me, the third one reframes everything. In 2011, Norton and Ariely published one of the most cited studies on how Americans misperceive wealth inequality. They asked Americans to estimate how concentrated wealth really was in the United States. People believed the top 20% held about 59% of all wealth. The actual figure at the time was closer to 84%. Americans weren't off by a little. They were off by a quarter of the entire distribution. And here's the part that makes it interesting: the misperception isn't random. It follows a pattern. People near the bottom underestimate the gap. People near the top underestimate the gap. Almost everyone drifts toward the middle in their estimate, regardless of where they actually stand. Which means the question isn't whether you're misjudging your position. The question is in which direction and by how much. The distortion isn't rare. It's the default, and it compounds. Every year you navigate your finances from the wrong starting point, the gap between your decisions and your reality quietly widens. 3 mechanisms explain it. 3 distortions that work on you whether you notice them or not. Let's start with the first one. Mechanism 1. The percentile illusion. A 2024 Gallup survey found that 54% of Americans identify as middle class. But when the Pew Research Center actually measured it, using income data, adjusted for household size, only 51% of Americans qualify as middle income. That gap looks small. 3 percentage points. But the real distortion isn't in the gap. It's in who's inside that 54%. People earning $35,000 a year call themselves middle class. People earning $200,000 a year call themselves middle class. They're describing wildly different financial lives with the same word. Consider an American earning $80,000 a year. He thinks of himself as average, comfortable but not wealthy. According to the Federal Reserve, the median American household earns about $70,200. He's not average. He's above the median, already higher than a large share of American households, even if it doesn't feel that way. The illusion isn't that he doesn't know the numbers. It's that he's not comparing himself to the right population. His reference isn't America. His reference is the version of America he sees: neighbors, coworkers, the people in his feed. And that reference always skews toward the people slightly ahead of him. Think about what that does over time. Every financial decision, how much to save, whether to invest, what counts as enough, gets calibrated against the wrong baseline. He's not broke, he's not failing, but he has no accurate sense of where he stands, and that gap quietly shapes every money decision he makes. The fix here is mechanical. The Federal Reserve publishes the data. You can look up your income, your net worth, your age bracket, and see exactly where you fall. Most people don't, because the answer is uncomfortable in both directions. Mechanism 2. Reference group distortion. In 1954, a psychologist named Leon Festinger published a theory that's been the foundation of social comparison research ever since. Festinger argued that people don't evaluate themselves against the whole population. They evaluate themselves against people who seem similar to them, same profession, same neighborhood, same stage of life. Which means the surgeon earning $400,000 a year, who eats lunch with partners earning $800,000, feels like he's falling behind. He's in the top few percent of American earners. But his reference group isn't America. It's the 8 people he eats lunch with. Your social circle isn't a sample. It's a filter. Research in behavioral economics has shown this directly. In one study, people systematically underestimated their position in a broader income distribution. Their estimate was anchored to familiar faces around them, not the full population. And here's why it matters beyond just feeling rich or poor. When your reference group earns more than you spend to close the gap. You don't save to widen it. The surgeon doesn't feel wealthy, so he doesn't behave wealthy. He upgrades the car, extends the vacation, delays the investment account because everyone around him is doing the same. And in the last 20 years, this got worse. Because the reference group expanded. Before social media, your reference group was the people you actually knew. Maybe 100 faces. Now your reference group includes anyone with a camera and a posting habit. A 2015 study published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology found that younger Americans systematically overestimate how much upward movement exists in the system. And the effect was strongest among people who already saw themselves as higher in social class. They think the ladder is more dynamic than it is. They think effort guarantees movement. The data says otherwise. Two distortions stacked on top of each other. Reference group too narrow. Belief in mobility too optimistic. Together they produce a confident person who has no accurate idea where they actually are, or where they're likely to end up. The fix is to deliberately expand the reference frame. Look at national data, not neighborhood data. Census, Federal Reserve, BLS. Your friends aren't the population. They're a small biased sample of it. Mechanism 3, the most important one. The confusion that reframes everything. Income and net worth are not the same thing. They're not even the same kind of thing. Income is what you make. Net worth is what you've kept. And in the United States, ranking high on one tells you almost nothing about ranking high on the other. Consider a 35-year-old professional in a household earning around $150,000 a year. By household income, she's near the upper part of the distribution. Her net worth is $40,000. Student loans, a car payment, a recent down payment that drained her savings. Under 35 Americans have a median net worth of about $39,000. She's roughly at the median for her age. Top 20% by income. Median by wealth. Same person. Same life. Two completely different stories. This is the confusion that does the most damage because income feels real in a way that net worth doesn't. Every 2 weeks, income shows up. It's visible, it's reliable, it feels like evidence of financial health. Net worth is slower, quieter, harder to see, and most people never look at it until something forces them to. The Federal Reserve reports that only 54% of American households hold any retirement account, and only about 1 in 5 directly hold stocks outside of those retirement structures. Think about what that means for someone earning well. High income flowing in every month, and most of it flowing right back out. The paycheck feels like progress. The balance sheet tells a different story. Net worth doesn't track income. It tracks time. Time in the workforce, time compounding, time in the market. Median net worth under 35, $39,000. 45 to 54, $247,000. 65 to 74, $410,000. Income is a flow. Net worth is the puddle underneath. A high-earning 28-year-old with no savings is in the top 20% of one chart and the bottom half of another. Both are true. Neither tells the full story alone. Here's the number worth holding on to. The median American family had a net worth of about $193,000 in 2022. The average, was over $1 million. That gap between median and mean is the entire story. The average is pulled up by the few. The median is where most people actually live, and it's less than a fifth of the mean. When someone says the average American has $1 million, they're not lying. They're describing a distribution where a small number of households carry the weight of the entire curve. The median within the top 10% alone is close to $3.8 million. There's a fair counterargument here, and it deserves a minute. These numbers are national. They don't account for cost of living. $150,000 in San Francisco buys a different life than the same income in Birmingham. That's true. Geography matters. Family size matters. Age matters. Health matters. A single percentile number doesn't capture any of that. But here's the thing. Most people aren't adjusting their estimate for cost of living and family size and age. They're estimating against an imagined average American that doesn't match any real distribution. The percentile data isn't the final word. It's the floor, the starting point that most people skip entirely. Once you know it, you can adjust from there. Without it, you're guessing in the dark. 3 steps. Practical, specific, and you can do them today. 1. Look up your actual position. The Federal Reserve publishes a wealth distribution tool. The Census Bureau publishes income calculators. Type in your numbers. See where you fall. 2. Check both numbers. Income percentile and net worth percentile. The gap between them tells you whether you're earning well or building well, or both or neither. 3. Audit your reference group. The people you compare yourself to determine the answer you arrive at. If your sample is 12 coworkers and a social media feed, your sample is broken. National data isn't more accurate because it's bigger. It's more accurate because it isn't curated for you. Here's what the research keeps showing. People aren't bad at math. They're bad at frame. They use the wrong reference group. They confuse income with wealth. They drift toward the middle because the middle feels safe. The percentile illusion isn't a personal failing. It's structural. Everyone you know is doing it too. But once you see it, it doesn't disappear, you just stop being blindsided by it. The number isn't shameful. It's just a number. And it's far more useful than the guess. Because here's the trade. The guess feels safer. The number is actually useful. The Federal Reserve already did the math. Whether you look at it is up to you. Most people will spend their lives misjudging one number. You don't have to be one of them. I'll see you in the next one.